I wanted to put together a tier list of major game genres for busy working dads. So in a sense, I wanted to rank each of the major game genres that we have. And I know that you can get down to the nitty gritty dark fantasies or, bullet hells. I mean, there's so many different levels. I went with the more prominent ones, the larger ones that you could see. And really what I wanted to do was to look and rank it for busy working dads. Kind of like good for dads as far as people who don't have a whole lot of time to game. That's essentially what I wanted to look at. And this is probably going to cause some fights. And by the way, this is all almost 100% just me and my bias. Let me put it that way. So I will always say if you truly enjoy a game, play the hell out of it. If you have an hour, if you have 10 hours a day, that doesn't matter. Play the game that you enjoy. Always, life is too short to play a game that you hate. I don't know. I wanted to stir the pot, so to speak. So the first gaming genre, which is the majority of my channel, is MMO. MMORPGs, massively online multiplayer, massive multiplayer online game or role-playing games. I know that this is probably going to ruffle some feathers. This is probably going to make some people upset. But for a busy working dad, I have to leave it at the C tier. Now, let me explain. All right. Some of the major will say, the big will say like 3, right? 2 out of the 3 big MMORPGs in my mind all include some type of subscription. You have to keep paying. You have to sink money in every time that there's a new expansion, and then you have to pay month to month. However, having said that, those live services, that payment for those live service games tend to be a lot better. I'm specifically looking at World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. Both of those games have a constant feed of updates and constant service because there's a subscription to it. So there is a means to an end. However, for someone who doesn't have a whole lot of time, that's such a tight window, like it's such a tight window. If you only got 3 to 4 to 5 hours to play per week, and that's all you play, that could be the only game that you play. With the amount of depth that a lot of these MMOs come out with and a lot of depth that they have, it's really hard for you to get to a point without feeling like you're constantly stuck onto a treadmill. That's not even talking about like any kind of seasonal things where you kind of lose progress and then you got to build up after every new expansion. And I hate saying it and hate leaving it there, but I feel like it's really not, MMOs really aren't all that conducive for people who don't have a whole lot of time. I'm going to leave it there because that one hurts. I love MMOs. That one hurt. Is ARPGs. ARPGs, in my mind, and vernacular, you're talking about Path of Exile 2. I think that they fall into the A tier. Usually very good, very in-depth, very fast to have some type of fun. I've done a working dad on Path of Exile 2 0.5. Love the game. The game is fantastic. It has a lot of really cool stuff with it. It is something that I recommend across the board. It is a fantastic game. ARPGs tend to be really good about being quick to fun, really short sessions. If you have 15-20 minutes, you feel like you can progress, and like there's usually a lot of content that they can go through and you won't blow through it just in 5 or 10 seconds. But then the other aspect of it is that a lot of the times these are solo playable games or focused on solo play. So you can go at your own pace. You don't have to worry about other players unless you want to. And you have a pause button most of the time in most of the games if you're playing on a solo server. I'm thinking like Path of Exile 2. I'm thinking of Last Epoch. I'm thinking even other games like, Torchlight Infinite, No Rest for the Wicked. These games tend to be really good for people who don't have a whole lot of time. They can take breaks for extended periods of time and not really fall too far behind. It's really, really good. Now, the only thing that keeps it out of the S tier, let me put it this way. The only thing that keeps it out of the S tier, the very top tier, typically the fact that it can be incredibly in-depth and then it becomes a game of numbers. And to some people that might be enjoyable, but I found in my experience, especially not having a whole lot of time, I don't like to sit there and crunch numbers. I don't like to sit there and just be like, oh, does this min max? And it's like, this does 0.4% more damage and that's going to be able to movement. The fun happens very quickly, but by the time that you get to the end game, it's like, the difficulty goes up exponentially and it loses some of its fun. RTS games, real-time strategy games. This one's a B tier. I do like RTSs. I have a third channel, if you guys didn't know. I play Age of Mythology Retold. I love that game. It's one of my favorite games. Played Age of Mythology when I was a kid. RTS games are really good because for the most part, you can play by yourself. You can play against a computer. and constantly create new situations, new strategies, and usually very long campaigns. There's a lot of moving pieces that make it really interesting and really engaging. The only thing that I will say is that when you get into the higher difficulty against computers, or you get into the higher difficulty for, we'll say, against playing other players, then you lose your pause button, is the micro intensive might be too much for someone who's just trying to relax at the end of the day. For a busy working dad, let me put it that way. I find myself, I have a hard cap. It's like back even when I played StarCraft 2, when I only had one kid, I could not keep up with these guys. And you can call me old, you can call me slow, what have you, but it was just too quick, too fast, and there was too much going on. And also from there, sometimes the campaigns can run very long, and if you wanted to get a full playthrough, you might, they could have 20 to 30 different levels on their campaign, and each one takes an hour, and it's like, okay, that's 40 hours right there of continuous. That's all I'm playing for the next month. And to some people that might work. I unless it's really engaging, I find it hard for me to stick. That's why I give it a B tier. Survival games, I think, are the only ones that are going to be S tier. If I'm to be 100% honest, in my experience, in my working on working dad games, survival games are phenomenal with solo play, re-entry, and time away. You don't feel like you're falling behind. Usually you can start a new character or go off and keep your old character. And yeah, like there's a lot of things that survival crafting games do. Personally, I found that to be one of the best genres for busy working dads. That is just me. And again, a lot of this is just based off of my opinion, my thoughts, and my feelings. As I've done more working dad reviews and I've tried to squeeze in hours of gameplay when I can, survival games have been the most forgiving. They have been the most engaging. They've been the most interesting across the board. I do know that some people say that it's like, I mean, even I could say is sometimes it's a little bit more brutal when you die, and then it's like, okay, well, now you got to do a corpse run like in Valheim, or you got to do something else to catch back up. I get that. However, it's also because usually there's a lack of preparation or there's a mismanagement on your end, and they're usually not that intensive. It rewards exploration. It rewards curiosity, which I really much enjoy, and it's something that I very much love. Survival games, S tier, no problem. Fighting games, this one was pretty simple for me. I put this into a B tier, really, because fighting games, and we're thinking like Tekken, we're thinking of the Avatar: The Last Airbender one. I've been watching that. That just came out. Fighting games are good with a lot of different aspects as far as being able to just load in, play a couple, and then go off. The problem that I find with fighting games, and this is personally why I try to avoid them, is, yeah, you might be able to play the story and you have, you know, the combat and you do all that. I just find it, and funny enough, being too repetitive in my regard, and it's not as interesting. It could be the HD that I have and the mom that told me that I have 80 of them. It's just, I understand that there's a whole bunch of people who they love it. That's their whole thing. But being able, if I have an hour and I'm just doing the same fighting sequence against different bosses or different enemies, or heaven forbid I'm on PvP, heaven forbid you're online. Like at that point, I'm just like, yo, that's a hard cut for me. If you get online, you find the people who have far too much time on their hands. Anything PvP usually is rough. It's really rough. But fighting games, they can be really good. Basically if you avoid online play. That's just me. That is just my opinion. FPSs, yeah, FPSs I put into C tier. I could argue B tier. So I know that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of busy dads who clock out at the end of their day and sit down to play a couple rounds of Call of Duty, a couple rounds of Battlefield, if I think it's still around, Apex Legends, those types of games. FPSs can be very fun. I personally, there was a long stint back when my oldest, right around the same time Apex Legends came out, and that's all I played. I just played Apex Legends. It was fun, but I found myself getting too stressed and too sweaty. And it's not to say that it's bad. It's not to say that PvP isn't bad for, you know, all intents and purposes, but it is so tough. It is so tough to not be upset. Say you had a shitty day at work and you get on and you get diddled by some sweaty, unemployed 30-year-old who played 15 hours today and you're in his crosshairs. Like, it's you're setting yourself up to rage. In my opinion, I feel like you're choosing the wrong game. FPSs though, they do have, especially if you're good and you can handle the reactivity, they can be a lot of fun. They can be engaging. And if you can disengage from that, I would say it floats between a B and a C tier. I'll give it B just for the sake that I do know that they're it's an easy way to just turn off your mind and unwind. I'll give them that. Grand strategy game. So this is like Civ. This is like, the one I go off of is Total War, Warhammer 2, 3. What's it? Total War. What was the one that I really liked? Three Kingdoms, I think it was. This one is, I would say is actually an A tier. I would say Grand Strategy tends to be really, really good because you can do a nice, decent campaign, and there's lots of ways that you can stop. There's lots of ways that you can pause. There's lots of ways that you can just step away and then come back. I will give it all that. The only problem that I have with Grand Strategy, is that there can be some excessively long campaigns. I really do know, like even in like the one that I have the most experience on, I have like 300 hours into Total War Warhammer 2. I could have a campaign that could last 60 hours. Just one campaign, right? And if you think about that, if that's all the time that you have within, I don't know, like a week, a month, and you only have like 5 hours a week, 5 to 10 hours a week, like that's basically all you're going to be playing for a month and a half is just that campaign if you see it from start to finish, or you just don't finish it. So that's usually the only thing, is that grand strategies demand a lot of time, but there's a lot of really good benefits to them. And there's a lot of really good aspects that make them enjoyable. Let me put it that way. It makes them enjoyable. And that's why they get the A tier. They're not S, they're not perfect. A tier, I definitely will get. MOBA games, I'm sorry, I got to put into the D tier. MOBA games 100% go into the D tier. And the only reason that it goes in the D tier is that it's not that it's not fun, because again, there was a stint where all I played was League of Legends. I was a Nautilus jungle main for the longest time. That was all I played. MOBA games, my problem is that you are locked in. You can't have any flexibility. Short matches, 15, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, but you are locked in and you can't leave. And then when you have a whole bunch of stuff going on, i.e. the kids throwing up in the other room, your wife needs you, you got to take the dog for the walk. I mean, there's so many other different things. It's tough to lock in 30 to 45 minutes that you can't be bothered. And heaven forbid you get into ranked, where people take that like full-time seriously, like it's their job. And then for some people, it is their job. It is very non-conducive to a busy working adult, to a busy working dad. 100% can't recommend MOBA, unfortunately. Turn-based, I put this in the same thing as strategy. Grand strategy does also have turn-based. But turn-based games, I view very much kind of like Baldur's Gate 3. I think XCOM are good examples. Those games are really, really good. I can guarantee, I know that they would be fantastic for a busy working dad. Same reason that they ended up in the A tier and not the S tier is because of the length of the campaigns. My brother-in-law has played Baldur's Gate, the Baldur's Gate game, like 6 different times, or played it all the way through, and he's like, oh yeah, the average one takes like 75 hours to play. And I'm like, holy crap, that is so much time within that time period to play. Holy crap. The turn-based games were so tough for me because I know that there's a lot of really good ones out there. There's a lot of really good ones. What's it? There's a new Star Wars turn-based game. It's just the only reason that this one doesn't get higher is because of the campaign length is... That's a problem. It's a long time, and it's a long commitment if you want to see it all the way through. Usually very much worth it. Very long time to get through, you know? Extraction games, I got to put into a C tier. They, and I think of very much of the sense like Mistfall Hunter. I would try Tarkov, Escape from Tarkov. The extraction games are good for a lot of different instances. If you only have short sessions, 15 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes of gameplay, it's usually very forgiving, even if you step away and you're AFK for a little bit. The problem is that you have the capability of losing all of your progress if you die. If you die to an enemy player who ganks you while you are fighting an enemy, or you take on a boss and you get killed and you lose all of your loot and all your gear and all your progress. Now, a lot of the times in those extraction games, it's easier to get it back. It's not as difficult. I will give it that. I will. However, I also find that it is less forgiving for someone who only has a couple of hours of gameplay. Like when I was doing a Working Dad's review of Mistfall Hunter, I played for 2 hours straight, and then like at the hour and 45-minute mark, I had a whole bunch of gear and a whole bunch of really good stuff, I died, and I got ganked by another player, and it just sucked. It sucks the wind out of you. And that genre just in and of itself is the only one that I'm like, I have to call it. It has to be a C tier. I can't rank it any higher, unfortunately. Story RPGs, I actually like for S tier. I think that they are S tier for busy working parents, mainly because usually those are single player games. And you can pause at a moment's notice. Like you said, Myth, you can usually take it on your own route and your own go. I love that. I love that aspect. And the fact that you get to move it along at your own pace. So I'm thinking like God of War. I'm thinking of like Red Dead Redemption. You get to control the momentum moving forward. I think that's what's really important. And it has a lot of flexibility. The game, it doesn't change after you log out and log back in. It's really, really good in that sense. Now, you could argue, the story length could be a while. However, I doubt it's a full playthrough of like a grand strategy or a turn-based game. Story RPGs, fantastic. Single player RPGs that are amazing. Witcher 3 is another one that comes to mind. Fantastic for busy working dads, 100%. Souls-likes, I put into the B tier because they are somewhat usually around story RPGs, but they are very demanding. They're thinking very much of like RTSs, where it's like, to be good enough to progress, you have to be at a certain level and certain tier. And I'm finding that out with Elden Ring. I think I'm outside of Volcano Manor now in my playthrough, and I'm having a wonderful time. I one-shot Estelle, by the way, Astel, the Natural Born of the Void. Thank you very much. One-shot that boss. But the thing is that there are other wall bosses that I ran into that I just banged my head up against for an hour and didn't make any progress. And that's the only downside that I can really see. Sometimes the campaigns can run pretty long, but I think I'm like 2/3 the way through, and I'm like at hour mark 25. So it's not really that bad. The aspect of like being forced to like constantly bang your head and learn these mechanics for the bosses, I feel like that's the only reason that I would mark it a little bit less than an A tier. It would have gotten an A tier, honestly, and again, I look at it like in the sense of Elden Ring. Elden Ring doesn't have an authentic pause button. So if like something happens, yeah, dying is kind of forgiving. Like, yeah, you lose your runes, but you can go back and get them. The only problem I have for busy working dad, let me go ahead and say, the only problem that I have is that if you're fighting a boss and you've hit like a mechanic wall, it can make you rage induce. It makes me rage induce, and it's like, it takes me an extra hour to go to bed because I get all sweaty and stressful. Maybe that's just me. Roguelite games. Now, I had to get this right. Roguelite and roguelike are two different things. Roguelite with a K, is essentially like the extraction game. You start a run and you get as far as you can, and then when you die, you lose all progress and come back. Roguelite is you add things along as you go that makes your next run a little bit better. Usually, these are very short and self-contained. This gets an S tier. Roguelike games, I think, are fantastic for busy working dads. You have short little windows. You have little, we'll say progress. You're expected to kind of to die, to fail, and then you get progress back. You know, like that kind of feed forward system, I feel like is really underrated. I feel like it does busy working dads a lot of justice in that sense. I don't know. Every time that I've seen a roguelite, I've been like, I like that. I like the idea of a new run. You get a little bit better. You got some kind of perk that makes it a little bit easier, and you just go from there. Those types of games, I'm very much on board. They're usually very friendly for busy working parents. 10 for 10 would recommend. I like roguelites. Sports games are pretty good. I put them at the B tier, unfortunately. And the only reason I say that, and again, I'm a little bit biased, sports games, I don't find as much interest. I know that's going to make some FIFA people. That's going to make some Madden people, 2K players. Like, I respect that you have your time, and I respect that that's the game that you want to play. I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of sports games. I played some Madden, and I did like the career mode, which was cool, but I don't know. Like, it's the game itself, the genre itself, usually it's like what? Like a half-hour game, 40-minute game that you play. Say you're playing like a football Madden type game. And usually you have complete control. You can pause, you can do all that, unless you're online, and then there's other steps. but it's usually pretty good. It's something that you can come back to and kind of pick up and understand, and it doesn't really change all that much. I also really just don't find them all that interesting. That's also me. A disrespecting sports game is going to make some people mad. Yeah, I know. I wanted to be honest. Let me go ahead and say I'm being honest to you guys. All right, so here's our tiers. This is what I have. S tier, best of the best for busy working dads. You got survival, story part RPGs, roguelites. A tier games, you have ARPGs, grand strategies, turn-based games, think like Baldur's Gate, XCOM, things like that. B tier, we have the most. We have RTS, we have fighting, we have FPS games, first-person shooters, Souls-likes, and sports. I'm sorry, it is going to make people mad and it's not ranked higher. C tier, MMOs and extractions. One costs too much time to play, and then the other just kind of wipes everything for a seasonal reset. It's tough, but yeah. And D tier, MOBA. MOBAs can be fun, and they can be interesting, and they can be engaging, but it is so tough to really commit that kind of time. Now, this is 100% biased, and again, as I said, this is 100% on me. I wanted to do this, set the record straight as far as what kind of games are best for a busy working dad. If you guys are watching this later, comment down below, tell me how wrong I am, tell me how stupid my haircut is, all that jazz. I appreciate all that. Any kind of feedback I love. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, you know, doing all that jazz. But having said that, that's where I'll wrap this up.